Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Enrichment, where we talk to small business owners and entrepreneurs on strategies and best practices. We all know that small businesses are often at a disadvantage when competing with bigger companies. However, they can have one advantage. They can always be smarter than the competition. So let's get right to it. This week, our topic is arrogance. Science is defined as a system of acquiring and organizing knowledge using observation, experimentation, and testing. Good science is devoid of preconceived conclusions. Bad science is arrogant. Bad science is thinking you know more than you do and ignoring questions that are inconvenient. I was once involved in the oversight of a preclinical drug trial in the Netherlands. Essentially, we were experimenting with a drug purported to accelerate wound healing, which is a good thing if it works. Drug trials are notoriously expensive. The most recent figures from the US FDA reveal that 91% of experimental drugs never make it to approval. The drug my company was working on was not one of the 9% to win approval. In retrospect, it became abundantly clear that our knowledge of the complicated process of wound healing was totally inadequate to the task at hand. Without going into all the details, the drug trial confirmed that there is a complex cascade of different growth hormones and other naturally occurring chemicals that the body precisely times and regulates to achieve successful wound healing. In addition, there were other factors to consider, such as the patient's age, overall health, and environmental influences that made our attempt to artificially influence the healing process a complete failure. At that time, our team just didn't know enough. So, why this trip down my own personal memory lane? Well, I recently read an article in Forbes by John Hall, who wrote about how pride or arrogance can be the downfall of any business. Sometimes we think we have a great idea, especially when we're dreaming. But there's a scientific explanation for that. When we dream, our brain produces dopamine, which impacts the pleasure centers of the brain. This in turn convinces us that we've come up with a great idea because it feels like a great idea. However, upon waking and analyzing our dream further, we find out it's not all that great after all. The same thing can apply to that great idea we have for our business, especially if we're too arrogant to admit that it's wrong. According to Hall's article, arrogance can also generate misplaced confidence or thinking that we know more than we do. Arrogance often prevents us from asking for help when we need it. We all excel at some tasks, but there are always others that are outside our skill set. Asking for help when you need it is a sign of a smart business owner. Arrogance can trick us into thinking we know best, especially when it comes to making big decisions. When dealing with major decisions, relying on arrogance or misplaced confidence often leads to disaster. If the future of your business is on the line, it's best to get different perspectives and input from trusted confidants. Finally, Paul reminds us not to let arrogance blind you as to when to call it quits. No business lasts forever, and few products or services remain on top indefinitely. Athletes grow old, CEOs retire, almost no one has a buggy whip any longer, and AM radio no longer rules the airwaves. Dan Post said, "An egotist is a man who thinks that if he hadn't been born, people would have wondered why." Well, I hope you found that useful. And if there's anything in there that you'd like to discuss, please reach out to me at rich@speakingofsuccess.us. And I hope to see you all again next week. Take care and God bless. Bye.